Hi, I'm Chef Peter Zoole from Addison Reserve, here to talk about a collaboration we have with Golf Kitchen Magazine and Chef's Garden. Chef's Garden has put together a box of vegetables that will ship straight to your door anywhere in the United States, free of shipping. What comes in the box is some recipes that I made, along with a link to our video. A little bit about Chef's Garden. They're located in Ohio. It's 3 generations of a family farm. They're hand-harvested vegetables, the best of the best, the highest food safety procedures in the business, and some of the best vegetables around. They grow specifically for, chefs and high-end restaurants, and now it's your chance to get them delivered right to your house. This is their mixed greens that they sent. It's a little tatsoi, some mizuna, really nice, super fresh. Basil flowers. Wow, smell that. It smells great. Okay, so our boxes arrived. Chef's Garden sent some really cool little baby zucchini and squashes, little tiny breakfast radishes with the tops, some of their herb tops, some opal basil here. It really smells fragrant when you open up the box. Some beautiful mixed colors of carrots, little baby carrots. Some petite white turnips, again with their tops, so that's fun. We'll be able to do something with the tops and the bottoms together. These are some beautiful oca. They're like Jerusalem artichokes. Beautiful colors. They'll add some pop to the dish with the colors, as well as the crunchy texture. Some mixed purple, green, and white asparagus as well. So it's exciting as first of the season, springtime asparagus. Mustard green blooms, so the beautiful colors and nice little spicy flavor to the dishes. Here we have some kohlrabi. Very nice, you can eat it raw, you can cook it. Kind of a similar taste to a turnip. And we're gonna make a cool salad with that. A blend of baby mixed greens that they've delivered. So it's a mix of all sorts of things. Let's see, there's some arugula, tatsoi, all kinds of stuff in here, just fresh picked. They FedExed the box overnight, so this was probably in the ground yesterday, and can't get much fresher than that. We're gonna start with our herb roasted chicken with orange and za'atar spice. So first we're gonna make our orange and honey yogurt. So I'll take an orange, we'll cut it in half across the equator, 2 of them. And I'm just gonna squeeze the juice into our bowl. Now we're gonna save the orange because we're gonna stuff our chickens with them and get a little aromatic going. So we'll take that, orange, our honey, about a cup of our Greek yogurt, pinch of our za'atar spice. It's about a teaspoon. So I'm just going to mix all these things together. And just stir them until they're all fully incorporated. So once it's nice and evenly mixed in, I'm going to take this and set it aside. We'll use that later on. So then we're going to move to our chicken. Roasted chicken's kind of the gift to ourselves that keeps giving. Good for several meals, lots of good leftovers there, and it's almost a blank slate to use any kind of ingredients or herbs or spices that you like or enjoy. So I got an organic, this is about a 3.5 pound chicken. So we're just going to drain it out, make sure that it's all of its juices are gone. Going to make sure that there's nothing weird inside, and then I'll just pat it dry with a kitchen towel. You can use a paper towel, that's fine. It's a little bit more disposable. So I'm going to take some of our nice Chef's Garden herbs that we got and our oranges that we use to juice and a garlic clove, and we're just going to put them right inside the chicken's cavity. And so when we roast it, all those nice flavors and aromatics will help to flavor the chicken from the inside. So I'm just going to give these a quick little whack. Cut the orange a little bit so it fits inside. And I have a whole garlic clove here. I'm just going to cut that in half. So we'll take our garlic clove and break it up a little bit. Go right inside. I have our herbs, a little bit of orange, right? Some of our big handful of our herbs. Get all that in there nice. Maybe a bit more of the orange. Bit more of the herbs. And then we're going to tie up our chicken. So there's lots of different ways to do it, and what it does, the usefulness of trussing the chicken is to keep everything nice and tight together so it wants to cook evenly, and also keeps our aromatics inside, keeps them from spilling out when we're turning the bird. So I have some butcher's twine here. Just going to pull off a length. So again, there's a lot of different ways to do it. This is just the way that I was taught. So I start from the back of the bird, get my twine in equal lengths, go right across the back, right under his wings right there. I come back so I get that nice and tight. Then come back, cross them over. Again, nice and tight so the wings are nice and snugged in. Then loop it around his legs right here, around the end of the drumsticks, and then we'll just tie a nice knot. Cinch it up, make everything tight. Just like that. Finish my knot, and then I'll just trim the excess string off, and there you go. So I'm going to transfer this right now just so I can season. So again, we'll use a little salt and pepper. I like to use sea salt when I can. A couple of turns from our pepper mill. And then I'll finish it with some more of our za'atar spice. Give them a nice little rub. Make sure all that's in there. Nice and seasoned up. Okay, so I'm going to wash my hands and we're going to move over to the stove. So here we're going to roast our chicken. Brought it over here. I have a nice roasting fork, going to help me turn the chicken in the pot, and some nice olive oil to cook with. I like to use, when I roast chickens at home, I like to use a nice heavy-duty cast iron pan. It just kind of helps insulate the whole thing. So we're going to get the pan nice and hot. We're going to add a nice fair amount of oil to the pan to get it started. So it's a nice, let's see, a nice coating across the bottom, just enough to cover the bottom, like that. So we're going to let that get hot. As if it's not hot enough, then the skin's going to stick to the bottom of the pan, and we're going to tear all that off, and it's going to not be a pretty result. We'll take our chicken, and I'm just going to catch it just under the thigh so I get my roasting fork through the rib cage, and that's a good way to manipulate it. And I'm going to start it on the thigh side, like that, and we're just going to roll it so we can get a little bit of the oil underneath, and we're going to brown that. Okay, now let's see, we have a nice golden brown on that side, so I'm just going to turn them to the opposite thigh side, and we'll continue to brown. I mean, there's a lot of different schools of thought about how to roast a chicken. Some people don't do any of this preliminary. They start with the oven very high and just put it straight in on its back and get the browning. For me, I think this is the best way that I've seen, because you can control some of the browning and you can really get it as crispy or not crispy as you want, and you see where it's going. It takes some of the guesswork out of it as far as I'm concerned. So let's take the peak a little bit more. It should be about good here. Yeah, nice, beautiful golden brown. So again, I'm gonna roll the chicken away from me so that I don't splash any of the oil up on the hot oil on me. And we're gonna roll it onto its breast side and continue to brown. Now my pan was getting a little hot, and I didn't want to burn the oil up too much, so I did reduce the flame on the heat just a little bit. And that's the beauty of using a nice cast iron dish like this, because it really retains the heat and you're not going to smoke the oil. Okay, so we're nice and golden brown now. Just going to carefully roll them back around onto the back. Switch the oil around a bit, and then we're going to go and place them in the oven. So I preheated the oven to 425 degrees. And we'll go for about 20 minutes or so, and I'm going to check and give it a nice baste. Put the breast so it's pointing towards the back of the oven. And there we go. So the next step in our recipe is getting along with the chef's garden vegetables. So we talked about our nice multicolored carrots and our young turnips with the tops. So we're gonna roast those in the same oven while the chicken's roasting. So while the chicken is in the oven roasting, I placed a roasting pan inside the oven to preheat that, and I'm just gonna wash and clean up the vegetables a little bit. So what we're gonna do here is I'm just gonna take a little bit of the stem and trim it off. Take a little bit of the end and trim it off, and then I like to use a little nice green scrubber like you have for pots and pans, and just remove some of these little hairy roots pieces from the carrot. So I just give it a quick little rub down, and I'm kind of rolling the carrot around as I go. Take and trim out a little bit of the top just to make sure there's no sand or anything in there where it was poking out of the ground. And then we'll take, once I go through all of them, we'll take and rinse them off with a little water, make sure they're nice and clean. And we'll start with the turnips. Okay, so we washed our carrots, and now I'm gonna start with the turnips. We have these beautiful little baby turnips with the tops. I want the tops for this dish too, but I don't want to cook them together because these tops are so young and tender that they're gonna cook almost instantly. So what I'm gonna do again is I'm just gonna remove a bit of the top, and we're gonna reserve that for later on. I'm gonna trim off this little root, and then we're gonna put those in a bowl so we can rinse them off with a little water later on. So just a quick little trim of the tops, a little trim of the root. So now all of our turnips are washed and trimmed. I've reserved them. I have my nice washed and trimmed turnip greens. We're gonna reserve those off to the side. And then I have my nice washed and trimmed carrots. So all I'm gonna do now is kind of pare these carrots down so that they wanna cook at the rate of the turnip, so that everything's kind of the same size and a nice shape. So I'm just gonna take and kind of cut these into like a rolling oblique. I like this rolling oblique cut for round vegetables just because they're all a little bit different in shape, and the ends are fun, and it just gives it an interesting look to the dish. Again, I'm cutting the carrots smaller so that they are relative to the size of the turnips, and they're going to cook at a more similar rate while they're in the same pans. If you put the carrots in as they are in big pieces in the same pan as this, the same pan as the turnip, then the turnip's going to be mush by the time the carrot gets cooked nicely. So now we have our carrots cut in our nice oblique shape. I'm going to add them to the turnips in a mixing bowl. And I'm gonna add a nice drizzle of some good olive oil. This is a nice kind of a fruity olive oil. We'll season them up with our salt and pepper. And then just gonna toss them to mix. Make sure that they're all coated with the olive oil. Salt and pepper is evenly distributed. And then I'm gonna finish with just a little bit of honey, a little drizzle of honey. And that's gonna help bring out the sweetness in the vegetables. And it's gonna give us the sugars and the honey are gonna give us a nice rich caramelization. So what I'm going for here is a pretty good color. So don't be scared if they get a little charred on one side, because that's gonna go nicely with our orange and our herbs that we use with the chicken and our yogurt. So now we're back to our chicken in the oven. So I have my preheated little roasting pan here. I'm gonna take the chicken out for just a minute. Wow, it's looking good. And I'm gonna give it a nice little baste here. Put the chicken back in. So you want the pan nice and hot. That's why I preheated it, so that we get that good caramelization right away. So I'm really just gonna dump them right in there. There you go, we have good heat. Stir them around for a second. You can already smell the honey cooking. So we'll go right back in the oven with that. We'll let them go for about 5 or 6, 8 minutes or so, and then give them a stir, see how they're doing. So now we're gonna make our kohlrabi and pistachio salad. So I have some dried currants here. We're just gonna plump them back up. So I'm just gonna add them to a little small pot. Cover them with just enough water to cover them, and we'll pop them on the stove. Just when the water comes up to a boil, we'll take them off, drain them out, let them cool back down. We're just gonna give them a little plump so they're not all hard and dry. The next step is we're going to take and trim a little bit of these extra pieces of the kohlrabi off. All right. Make sure we give it a good wash. To make the julienne strips, we're just going to take our kohlrabi and we're going to cut it in half. Trim just a little bit of the end off. And then we're going to cut little thin slices. So once we've cut our thin slices, just like this, we'll take and stack them up. And we'll come back and cut them into long, thin strips. Place them in our bowl. Now I have my shredded red cabbage. Just gonna add a little handful of that in there. So we're just making a nice little slaw here. I'll add our plumped and cooled currants. I have a bit of rice wine vinegar. It's about a tablespoon. We have about another tablespoon of sugar we're going to add in there to kind of balance the bitterness of the cabbage. Give a couple turns of pepper, a little bit of sea salt, a bit of nice olive oil, juice from the other orange that we had. Then I'll take our pistachio. And we'll just give it a nice quick coarse chop to it. You don't want it to be too fine. Give a nice crunch to the salad. We'll add that into the dish. And we'll mix it all together. So quick, easy little slaw with our kohlrabi. It's delicious like that. So now it's been about 15 minutes total cooking time for our root vegetables, and another 15 for the chicken. So 30 minutes chicken, 15 minutes vegetables. And yes, the vegetables look wonderful. So here's where the turnip greens come into play. They're nice and tender. Beautiful caramelization in the pan. We're just going to take some of our turnip greens, add them in, stir them in a little bit so they get the process wilted. And they'll go back in the oven for really just like 2 or 3 minutes tops. Okay, so now our chicken should be just about done. Let's have a look. Yeah, that looks great, huh? I'm gonna give it a final little basting. Right. I have an Insta-Read thermometer here. We're gonna check the temperature of the chicken just in the thigh. Be careful, don't touch the thigh bone because you'll get a false reading. So we're safe to cook chicken is about 160, 165, but it's going to carry up a little bit from there. So I'm going to take it out at about 150, 155. So we're a little bit light there, about 125 degrees. So maybe about 5 more minutes. I'm just going to get a second opinion from the other side. Similar, 130, 140. So just about 5 more minutes. So that would be a total cook time of about 35 minutes. Just a few minutes, literally a minute and a half back in the oven. Okay, so now we're just going to let it kind of chill here for about 10 or 15 minutes so it can cool down and let the juices settle back into the meat. If you cut big pieces of roasted meat too soon right out of the oven or right out of the pan, you lose all those nice juices right onto the cutting board. So it's what we call letting our roast rest. Okay, so now our chicken is cooled, it's properly rested. We're going to remove it from the pan, just let some of those juices drain out from the cavity, and I'm going to break it down real quick. So I'm just going to remove our string that we used to truss it up. Get the half. So I'm just going to go down, follow the bone here, all the way out, and follow our rib cage out right there. Then just follow the bone with your knife, come down to the wing joint, go through, we'll turn it around this way, and then we'll follow the bone down to remove the thigh. One. Again, you get lots of good leftovers out of chicken. So this one meal, the work for one meal makes several. We'll Follow the bone down, come out the rib cage, come down again, go through our joint, spin it around, do the same with the thigh, pop out the joint. And then you can save that if you want to make a nice little broth later on. Right here we have our roasted chicken halves. So then to further get ready for our dish, I'm going to separate the legs and the thighs. Right, so now we have our bird broken down. So we'll just make some nice cuts here. So for our meal right now, we're really only using half of the chicken to plate. So now we'll move on to our plate. Okay, so now for the best part. We plate and eat. So here I have our orange za'atar yogurt that we made first. I'm just gonna do a little sauce on the plate. Okay. I have our kohlrabi slaw that we made with the pistachio and the currants. Have our lovely root vegetables from Chef's Garden. We're gonna add to the dish right here. And then we'll finish with a few slices of our chicken. And I'm just going to finish with a little sprinkle of our za'atar spice. And there you have it. So I know the recipe sounds a little complicated, but really it's not. It's just a few simple ingredients. The best part about it is the reward. We get to enjoy a nice tasty bite. It's delicious. So another recipe that I chose to help showcase all of our wonderful vegetables is this asparagus stuffed salmon. Now the concept is really old school, but it makes for a cool presentation. It looks really complicated if you're gonna show off to some guests and family members at your house, but you'll see from the video, it's pretty straightforward and simple. So we'll start with the ingredients that I'm gonna use here. Now, I added to the website a list of extra ingredients that you may need for your house to follow the recipe. So I started with, this is about a 12 to 14 ounce piece of salmon, a nice thick center cut. It's important that it's nice and thick because so it cooks evenly, and we're going to stuff it with asparagus, as you'll see in a few minutes. I have our asparagus that we looked at earlier, our nice young zucchini, radishes. All these are washed and trimmed, and they're all ready to go. Back from our herb box again, I have some of this lovely basil, a little ricotta cheese, and salt and pepper, a little olive oil, and that's really what we'll need here for this dish. So let's get started. So I'm going to take our asparagus, and I'm really just going to gauge about how long I need the asparagus to be to fill the salmon. So I'm going to trim that one for my marker so that I get a good idea of how it is. And then I'm going to trim off the tip. Now we're going to save the tip about 1.5 inches long. We'll save that for a later use. A couple spears of our asparagus. I'm kind of mixing up the colors here. Now white asparagus tends to be a little bit more woody, but this is nice and young asparagus. So generally, if you get fully matured white asparagus, you're going to want to peel it, and the cooking process is a bit different. But for this, we're just going to cook it with our other asparaguses. So I'm using my piece that I used to gauge how long we want asparagus, and I'm just going to trim off the ends. So the ends of the asparagus are pretty tough, a little woody, and it's not really something you want to put in there. So we'll get a few more pieces. We measured, and there we go. So we're going to blanch these asparagus, just a little salted water, and we'll get that going now. So here I have a nice pot. It's filled up with boiling hot water. I'm just going to add some salt, liberal amount. I was taught that your blanching of green vegetables, the water should be salty like the sea. So it's nice and boiling. We're going to drop them in there for, this is nice, young, beautiful, first of the spring asparagus. So it's really just going to need maybe a minute or two. So our asparagus is blanched, it's nice and tender, but it's important that you shock them right away. It stops the cooking process and it locks in the nice green color. So we'll get those in there just until they're cooled, and then we'll take them out and let them dry. So now we're gonna create the pocket for our salmon to stuff the asparagus inside. All right, so we have our salmon fillet. Remember we measured before, perfect length. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my knife and I'm just gonna cut all the way through right in the middle and come out the other side. So we're gonna come down about an inch away from each side. So a trick is you can use something to hold it open. I'll use my knife steel so that I can get the knife back in without making a new cut. Come down this way, and then here's the easy part. You take your asparagus. Let's make the pocket a little bit bigger. So that's the only tricky part. You just want to make sure that you have a nice pocket there, but it's not all the way through to the edge where you're going to break it later on. All right, so now we're just going to take our asparagus and we're going to fill our pocket that we made. And I'm just kind of alternating color so it looks a nice presentation later on. Okay, so there's that. We have our nice pocket filled there, and that's going to make for a really dramatic presentation later on. Super easy. We just blanch some of our Chef's Garden asparagus, cut our pocket in our salmon, and put it right inside. So here we have, coming over to the stove with our salmon that we stuffed with the asparagus. Got my saute pan getting warm. Again, I'm just going to put a nice thin layer of blended olive oil on there, just enough to make a sheet on the bottom. Okay, we're gonna let that pan get nice and hot. We're gonna come back and season the salmon. So a nice trick, it helps for the fish not to stick and get a nice sear if it's nice and dry. So I take a couple paper towels and I give it a little pat. We'll season with salt and pepper. We'll do the same to the other side. Oil's nice and hot now. Take the fish. You always want to put the skin side down first, the presentation side. So we'll just work that into the pan. Okay, once it's in the pan, I'll lower the heat down a bit. So I'm just really looking to get a nice light sear on our fish. So since we made the pocket, it's kind of made a place in it, so kind of a hump. And really I'm just kind of propping it up so that I get a good sear on both sides. When we stuffed it, we made the fish round shaped and it doesn't really fit with the flat pan as well. So now I think we have a nice sear. We'll flip it over. Nice, beautiful, right? And we'll let that to continue to cook and the salmon will be just done. So now the salmon's just cooked. Gonna very carefully remove it from the pan, set it on a little side plate, and we'll save that just a few minutes. We'll cut into that and make our presentation. So next, we're gonna quickly pan sear a little roast with our zucchinis and our radishes. So I'm gonna give a quick little cut to these guys. I'm just gonna cut them down the middle. Before we started filming, I just washed and trimmed everything that needed to be trimmed. We gave them a good wash just to make sure there's no sand or dirt or anything in there. So then we'll go over to the stove with these guys. So again, we're gonna preheat a pan, get it nice and hot. Little skin of olive oil. You can use the same pan that the salmon was in. If you don't feel like doing extra dishes, it would get a nice salmon-y flavor from the oils that were in the salmon. I have our mixed lettuces that we hit. Again, I just took a little bit of the excess stem off, washed, and they're ready to go. And I have our nice zucchinis and radishes here. We're just gonna give them a quick little drizzle. That'll help our seasoning adhere. We'll give them a little season. Just gonna take and mix them around. All right. Make sure that the seasoning's evenly distributed. Okay, so the pan's nice and hot. Go ahead and drop our squashes in, right? Careful you don't splash the oil on yourself and get a burn. I want to put them cut side down because we're going to get a nice caramelization there. And we do want that nice and hot. Again, I'm just kind of rolling the oil back and forth to make sure that all the surfaces are contacted. So these vegetables are nice and young and tender. They really don't need a whole lot of cooking, if any at all. So let's see what we got going on. Yep, that's what we're looking for. Nice golden color in the middle. So we'll let that continue to cook for just a minute. All right, so we have a nice caramelization in our pan. I'm gonna drop our turnips in, or radishes in rather. Toss these around a little bit. Get the greens a little wilty, right? Okay, and the last little bit we're gonna do is gonna transfer these to our bowl where we started. Now you see my pan is crazy hot. It's nice and smoking. I'm just gonna drop those greens in with a quick shot of olive oil, quick shot of salt, a little bit of pepper. Toss them once or twice and then they're gonna come out, right? Because these, just a quick kiss in the pan is all we want. So right when they start to wilt right there, see they lost a little bit of their starch. We're gonna drop these into our pan. We'll make our quick ricotta spread and then we'll eat. So I have again some of our beautiful little herbs from Chef's Garden. I'm just gonna pick a little bit of that and give it a quick chop. I'm gonna leave the flowers though. I'm just gonna use some of the little tender leaves. Okay, so we just gave a quick little chop to our herbs here. I'm gonna take a spoonful of our ricotta, about a cup. Squeeze in some fresh lemon, just a bit. Add in our chopped herbs. Just a pinch of freshly cracked black pepper. maybe like a teaspoon, teaspoon and a half. Again, a bit of salt, and I'm gonna mix that in, just like we did with our yogurt spread from our chicken dish. I love ricotta, these little spreads like this. It's a blank slate. You can flavor it however you want. It's good to spread on some nice crusty toasted or grilled bread. It's good, it's nice and fresh and light. For me, this dish kind of reminds me of spring with those asparagus that we got. It's really the first taste of some springtime fresh produce. Put a little bit of olive oil in it, maybe a tablespoon. We'll finish incorporating that, and we're ready to put everything together on our plate. Okay, so here we're ready to plate. Just gonna take our salmon, I'm gonna put it back on the cutting board, and we're gonna very carefully slice it in half. This is 2 portions. Nice mi-cuit, medium rare, it's beautiful. It's gonna be super tasty like that. Save this for our friends, and then we'll go for our plate. So I have our vegetables, our radishes and squashes that we did, our wilted greens, our ricotta. We saved our asparagus tips from earlier. We're gonna give those a quick little dress, season them up, and we'll go right for the plate. Put our greens, that. Nice little healthy bit of our radish and squashes. Again, this was enough for 2, so we're saving some of it back there. We'll make a nice little cordon of our ricotta. Got a little crazy with my cordon. And then we'll balance our salmon with that cool asparagus presentation up. Last thing that we're going to do, we have our asparagus tips that we reserved. We're just going to kind of place them around. Couple here, couple there. And there you go. Nice, easy. It looks really complicated, but we've shown how simple it is to make this beautiful presentation with the asparagus. You can impress your neighbors and your friends. Tell them that you slaved in the kitchen all day when it took you like 10 minutes. And we did it all with our produce from Chef's Garden. Okay, another recipe that I chose to showcase the versatility of our Chef Garden box is avocado toast. Love it. Breakfast, lunch, dinner. I like to put a little fried egg on top of my avocado toast to round it out. But when I saw these ingredients with our little sunchokes, our okas, some of our mustard greens, our beautiful mixed greens that we got. Again, I picked the stems off and we washed it, dried it. Same with our chokes. I have a little bit of the radishes that we used before, and let's get started. So I have a nice baguette here. You can use baguette, ciabatta, any kind of bread. I like something nice and crusty and sturdy because I'm going to put it on the grill. So most of you guys don't have a grill in your house, but you can easily put it right in your oven, toaster oven, whatever you have going on. So maybe 3 nice pieces. I'm going to take some of our nice olive oil, and we're just going to liberally dress it on both sides. So this is the point that you'd put it in your oven or your toaster if you wanted to do that. And if you already have the grill fired up, you can run outside and do that too. Get our grill nice and hot. Just going to put them on here. So here's the trick to make you like a professional. I put them at a 45-degree angle to the grill, and we'll get our nice little cross hatchy things. nice pretty marks on the toast. So I don't want to toast these too hard, just a nice light toasting so it's crispy outside and still soft on the inside, or else it's going to be super crunchy like a crouton to eat. So I think that's good enough right there. We'll take these off and we'll finish our recipe. So now I'm just going to make a quick vinaigrette. We have our mixed greens. I'm going to take those out of the bowl so we can mix together our vinaigrette right in the bowl. I'm going to use a little bit of lemon, olive oil, salt, and pepper. Super simple. So we have our lemon juice, nice and fresh and light. I'm just squeezing it through this little strainer to keep the seeds from going in. A bit of olive oil. Plenty there. We're going to season it with salt and pepper. A little bit more than what you might think, because remember we're going to help to season the greens too. So I always wanted a vinaigrette to be a bit sharper, a bit more seasoned than if you were just eating it by itself. Okay, and I'm going to take most of that out. Keep a little bit. Toss our greens back in. Just a real super light toss, and that's done. We're going to make the star of the show, our avocado. Again, easy peasy. Not an avocado, so I just take and cut around there. Get that out. Scoop out our avo. Nice and ripe. It's a good way to tell if you're at the grocery store. They have just a little bit of give. If they're rock hard, they're not very good. They're hard to eat. And if they're too soft, they're going to have a lot of brown spots and they're going to be mushy and not that good to eat either. So just a little bit of give there. So really, it can't be much easier than this. We have our avocado in. I'm going to take a fork and we're going to mash it up. All right, mashed. A little bit of olive oil. Again, season with salt and pepper. Mix all that in. So I'll save that for just a second. So now we have our okas, our sunchokes here, our radishes. I'm going to use a cool tool. It's a mandolin. You can buy these, are like, I don't know, maybe $25 or $30. Amazon Prime has everything. Makes your life a bit easier in the kitchen. If you don't have one, you can use a knife. Just make some nice thin slices. This just makes it a little easier. Just got to watch your fingertips. So I'm just cutting these in little coins. And we'll do the same with our oka. So I'm gonna ad-lib, I'm gonna add a little bit of our asparagus from our last recipe. So it doesn't do quite as well in the mandolin. So I'm just gonna do some nice thin slices real quick and add that. So that just shows the versatility of our box. Plenty of leftovers for other recipes. I think we have some good techniques here, how to cook the vegetables or not cook them. They're good, you know, raw or cooked. Okay, now we're just gonna assemble our plate, assemble our toast, and we'll fry our egg very quickly and have a nice lunch. So I'm gonna take some of our smashed avocado that we made, and I'm just gonna super generously spread it on our toast. I'll take some of our mixed greens that we dressed with our lemon vinaigrette. And we'll just make a nice little bed for our toast. All right. Drop our toast on there. Some of our sunchokes, our oca, our asparagus, our radish. Sprinkle them on there. It gives a nice fresh crunch to the dish and just looks awesome. Tastes awesome, looks awesome. Super wholesome from Chef's Garden. Okay, so now we have our plate ready to go. We're gonna go fry our egg very quickly and we'll finish with our mustard flowers. So I'm just gonna get our pan. So this is gonna like a super quick fry. So I get the pan really crazy hot, a lot hotter than you would do if you were just making a traditional like sunny side egg up. For me personally, I like the little crust on the bottom. I used to use a lot of butter in my cooking. It has its place, but I've really moved away from that and use a considerable amount of olive oil and various oils. It's avocado oil, grapeseed oil, and things like that. It's just a little bit lighter of a finish to it. Kind of wait until I start to see the smoke point of the oil. Not too hot that I'm gonna blow the olive oil away, but hot so that the egg's gonna fry really quickly and get that nice bubbly crust that I like. Just a little crack. Super high heat. It's got my nice bubbles that I like and it's gonna be a nice crispy bottom to it. But I like the runny yolk to mix with my toast. Almost there. Wait till the whites are just cooked but the yolk is still runny. If you don't like it like that, you can pop the yolk and flip it over and make a nice over well egg, and that's fine too. You can leave the egg out. It's a nice vegetarian vegan dish then. And here we go, all done. We're gonna go and just slide this on, put a little garnish, and have a nice lunch. Okay, here we go. We're just gonna slide it right onto the top of our avocado toast. There we go. I have some of our beautiful mustard flowers that we got in our box. I'm just gonna add a few here and there. Adds a little spicy to the dish. And there we are, avocado toast with the shaved oca, radishes, our mixed greens, fried egg, and our mustard flowers.